So welcome to another edition of Kingdom Calling, the Kerry Football Show. We are looking back at the Kerry Petroleum Senior Club Championship and Intermediate Club Championship, as well as looking forward to the knockout games this weekend. We've got the semi-finals of the Senior Club Championship and the quarter-finals of the Intermediate Club Championships. So very interesting games, a lot to discuss, and we also will get a general overall view from the panel on the news just broke this morning that Mike Quirk, or Micheál Quirk, had stepped away as a member of Jack O'Connor's management team and the implications of that. So I'll introduce my panel. First of all, we have one new member of the panel today. Everybody else is pretty familiar. To my left is the sage himself, the historian, storyteller. He's a freelance journalist. He writes for the Kerryman. He's also deeply involved in the sport club and very entertaining as always. Plus he has a little knowledge. That's Jimmy Darcy O'Sullivan. So welcome, Jimmy. Next to Jimmy we've got John Kennedy. And now John needs no introduction really. He's the only one here among us who has got all Ireland medals. He's got 3. Remember that great Kerry team in the 80s, and remember that great SG team in the 90s, 2000s, 2012, right up to the current moment, but he's not playing right now. He also managed Clare senior team, and he was a very successful Kerry minor football manager as well. He does a lot of radio work, and he also co-commentates on Clubber, and that is John Kennedy. John, you're welcome.
Thanks, Mort.
Next we have a man who has damaged ribs after the hurling final, though he never played, and he also plays junior football now, and he's only a couple of years off the free travel. He's a freelance journalist, works for the Kerryman and the Irish Examiner, and has also a deep knowledge of both what's happening currently in the football scene and indeed hurling and other games as well. And that's John O'Dowd from Tarbert. You're welcome, John.
Thank you, Mort.
And the new man on the block is the, better get this right, is he assistant or deputy editor of the Kerryman? He's from G.A.A, commonly known as G.A.A, and that's Damian Stack. Damian now lives in Ballybunnan, where there are better footballers, he says. He's very forthright in his views. If you ever read his columns in the Kerryman, you probably have sued him. Now, he also is a real Formula 1 sort of fanatic, and there's nothing about Formula 1 racing that he can't tell you. I've gone to a couple of away games with him, I can assure you, and he is a very good Formula 1 driver as well. I've had to take Valium on the trip. He's also into blues singing, but we'll say nothing about that right now. Damian Stack, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Mort.
So that's our panel, and John C. O'Shea, as ever, having got past a lot of tractors on the road from Killarney, is here in good time, about a half an hour late. Now, we're going to start with just the breaking news, I suppose, first of all, and just a general comment around that Micheál Quirk, or Mike Quirk, has stepped down. 3 years he was involved with Kerry. We were in All Ireland as well, mind you, and of course beaten by Armagh in the semi-final this year, and Mike has stepped away, so there will obviously be a vacancy in the panel. Jimmy, or in the selection panel.
Trying to get him on here, Mort, is it?
Yeah, Jimmy, you would possibly, how would you view this? Do you think this is going to affect things going forward? Have you any idea who you'd like maybe to come in, other than somebody from SPA?
Well, first of all, I think we all have to thank Micheál Quirk. Put in a huge job, especially on the stats, and that always a gentleman to deal with. Always gave everything he had to Kerry. A great manager in his own right, and just, I think we should kind of thank him for everything that he's done. And he's stepping back. It's an absolutely colossal commitment. I mean, I don't think a lot of people out there understand how huge managing any team, even at club level, there's massive work that you have to put in behind the scenes. County level, you multiply that by 100, Now, I mean, straight away, I'll drop one obvious name in the mix, and he's not with Kerry this year, but he did win an All-Ireland. And I don't think anyone needs to guess who I'm talking about. That's a guy that I would love to see back in a Kerry centre.
Eamon Fitzmaurice.
Kieran Donaghy.
Oh, Kieran Donaghy.
Although, I would welcome Eamon Fitzmaurice back as well, absolutely.
Oh yeah, you said he wouldn't.
Another very shrewd operator,
Yeah. You'd like to see Kieran Donaghy. Yeah.
I honestly, whether it's basketball, football, anything, Kieran Donaghy is one of those people who, in my opinion, he just lifts every room that he walks into.
Yeah.
I remember 2006, you going to press conferences and we're all talking about this new guy, he was so with the minors and he wasn't Kieran Donaghy, amazing.
Like a stepladder, wasn't he? Very tall.
And the thing was, you were coming out to press conferences with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
You just liked talking to the guy.
Yeah.
And he loves talking about sport, and not just because of the basketball, but basketball is a part of it, is in terms of tactical thinking and channels and putting up screens, and somebody's going to say to me there's no screens in Gaelic football, and I'm going to say to you, go back and have another look at the under-6s games because you've never seen under-10s playing. Yes, there absolutely are screens in Gaelic football, and we all know it. A lot of it is about controlling the channels of play. Kieran Donaghy is an expert at that, good guy in the room, knows what he's doing, able to work with a team and a management. I'd absolutely love to see him in there.
Yeah, fair play.
He's with Armagh,
It's a big ask maybe for him to leave them after they're winning an All-Ireland. John, what would you write? Obviously, Micheál has given his service and his young family as well and everything else, so it's not possible maybe to continue. But Kieran Donaghy, would that be a name that would be in your lips if it was possible?
Yeah, of course. Look, Kieran is one of the guys. He's there's a nod about Kieran really in there. He's infectious. Look, he's obviously knowledgeable, huge experience as a player, but now with Armagh. But look, to reiterate what Jimmy said there about Micheál, massive commitment. He was involved with Laois, and he's I suppose every man that puts that stands on the line with a team, he's open to criticism. And you'll get more criticism than you will get credit.
Did you get criticism?
Yeah, everybody does, to be fair. Right, and there's no doubt about that, and that's the county we're in.
Yes.
And if we don't win, well,
the fans are unforgiving.
And look, people are looking for success in Kerry.
Paddy O'Shea got in a lot of trouble for a comment that he made while on holiday.
South Africa.
But he told the absolute truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth of it.
There's no doubt about that, and in fairness, look, Micheál has given great service, great commitment, and the time comes that he's going to move on. Will others follow him? That's another question that needs to be asked, and the rumour mill is moving this morning and today, and but at the end of the day, look, there's a lot of, I agree with Jimmy and Kieran, there's a lot of quality guys in Kerry that could do the job with huge experience, and I think a change is good, because you need to freshen things at times. And going into the new year, we spoke about it off air about new players coming in. Are there a lot of players out there that are putting their hand up? Maybe not. But sometimes when you freshen it, and no better man than Jack to do that, bring in a new management team, new ideas, and we're not going to be far off.
Exactly. John, you would have been in, was it 2021 county final press night, and Kieran was there with Dylan Casey, I remember, and Wayne Quinlan. And they were playing obviously Strand Road where we are today. We'd like to thank Ken's O'Reilly's for giving us shelter this week. We're moving around. I think next week we'll probably be under a cardboard box in Dilly Street or somewhere. But that night, I mean, he commanded that night. He was so forthcoming, and Dylan was very good as well. But you'd get from him that he had leadership qualities, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100%. Like, the thing with Kieran Donaghy is, and when you meet him, just even in the simplest of situations, he radiates positivity. He's that type of individual. Like you say, he goes into a room, and you just know what he's like in a dressing room. And people who have played with him, people who have played under him, there's no one says a bad word about him, because he has high standards. but he has a way, I think, of getting performances out of people through the sheer force of his personality as well. Like, I don't think it's any secret looking into the future, and it might not be the immediate future, we don't know, but Kieran Donaghy will manage Kerry at some stage. I don't think I'm being out of bounds in saying that will happen. He said it, I think, on a late show interview maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that it was his ultimate ambition was to manage the Kerry senior football team. So I think it will happen. Whether he decides to join the setup now that there is a vacancy, I don't know. I'm sure Armagh, and he's obviously very close to Kieran McGeeney, they really have a relationship that's been cultivated over the last 3 or 4 years, and with the ultimate success, is he going to want to leave an Armagh that are defending All-Ireland champions and potentially, you know, going to try and get 2 in a row, which obviously Armagh have never done in their history. So it's going to be difficult. If Kerry do decide to pursue the Kieran Donaghy angle, it's not going to be easy to get him now, but he will be involved at some stage. But I think on the overall point, I think Jimmy and John hit the nail on the head. The commitment is colossal. Sometimes in the rush, in the wailing and the gnashing of the teeth after Kerry lose either an All-Ireland semi-final, an All-Ireland final, us in the media, general supporters, we go into a depression and we blame this person and that person, and it's, you know, the winter's ruined, we don't have Sam Maguire. But we actually forget that the people involved, the management, the backroom team and the players, they're hurting far more than we are.
They make more sacrifices.
We seem to forget that. We're not making the sacrifice. They've made the sacrifices since the previous November or whatever. And obviously Micheál is involved for 3 years. And you know, when you lose an All-Ireland final and then you lose an All-Ireland semi-final, and they will look at it and say they were winnable All-Irelands. Sometimes it's very hard for them to stomach coming back for another season, especially when you've family, work, everything else.
Yeah. And to a man who watches a lot of late shows, you were talking about Kieran Donaghy, is late shows, Damian, as he smiles away there at me. Is there any other name that you would think, in your estimation, other than sort of Kieran Donaghy, maybe one of the under 20 guys, could one of them step up, would you think?
One kind of idea that might work, it would be, like, I think Eamon Fitz, when he took over from Jack, I think he was under 20 manager or under 21 manager as it was at the time, and senior selector at the same time.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So could Tomas go in there for a season, keep the 20s again for another year, and try to win that All Ireland, and go in with Jack? I think he'd be an intriguing guy. Anytime we've ever spoken to him, he's just hugely impressive. You could just see the guys and Jimmy was speaking earlier about Kieran and the boost that he would give. I think Tomas would have some of that.
He's fire in his belly when he talks to you.
Absolutely. And maybe there's just a need of that for that.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's any way, with the modern schedule, the modern training demands, no way can you do both. I have no problem with Tomas being in a senior selector.
It's only a 6 or 8 week competition.
You're not with the under 20s.
You're finished with the 20s before the championship really
starts. Yeah.
So no, you probably would be during the league, maybe. You
need to have 75% of your work done before the ball is thrown in.
I think probably the biggest issue for Tomas is the fact that he's living in Cork. Even
and he's a primary school principal.
Young family, a lot of commuting, living in Cork. It's not even guaranteed that Tomas is going to stay with the under 20s yet.
Yeah, Mort Murphy became a principal and he became unavailable in the last management, and Eamon Fitzmaurice is a school principal now. So. Yeah, school principal, because you have to work outside the class and you have later hours, so it's not that easy. So that's probably overall. So lads, no solutions, no big names, no inside story, but we will.
Does anyone think Mort Murphy could maybe step up a bit?
No, Mort Murphy is going to stay stump on this one, and he's not going to say one word about any successor. I have no clue. I haven't been talking to anyone. So I will quickly move on. Before I make a bag of things. And we move on to the club championship, the senior club championship. And we'll have a look at the Crokes, Nagale, Milltown, of course, and Dingle, that group first. So, Jimmy, you happened to be in Milltown by pure chance on Saturday. Dingle, were you impressed again by them?
Certainly was. Took a little while to get going. Milltown gave them a fair old test of it. Again, I would say Milltown left scores that were there for the taking that they didn't take in the first half, and once Dingle got a grip on the game, again, they play fantastic football. They play fast ball forward. It's just they're a good team to watch. They're a good football team, you know. But an issue for me, I've never liked the amount of games that people are playing these days. I just think there's too many games. I think the body needs a rest period, and I don't think players are getting it. Tom Sullivan pulled up, and it looked like the hamstring just snapped. I hope I'm wrong, but it looked like a bad tear to me. Mike Gainey came on and came off again. He's not fully
injury.
fit.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
No.
What about Paul Gainey? Was he okay?
He was okay.
Yeah.
He finished the game fine.
Barry
Dan O'Sullivan was the man of the match, but to be honest with you, I thought Paul was nearly man of the match for a third game in a row.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They're a
I just
fantastic
wanted to
team.
build up Paul because I want to get a free lunch back there, but go on.
They also lost Conor O'Sullivan, the full back, went off injured after 10 or 15 minutes.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
Conor Gainey didn't
a
come
great
out for the
flop to
second
stop a
half
certain goal.
either. So Dingle have real injury doubts over 4 players coming into this weekend, and they don't have a big squad. So their physios and the treatment table will be busy back west now in the build up to Saturday evening.
John and Damien, I'll go to you for the other side of the other team who qualified. Obviously, Crokes not well beaten, but they lost the first game. They showed improved form definitely in the second half against Milltown-Castlemaine. But I thought they were. I covered that game with with Aidan Carmody on Saturday while you were elsewhere. Crokes did not impress me. Now, there could be a complete change team this coming weekend. We'll talk about that after. But like they are not firing in all cylinders. Their half forward line, their midfield, and their full back line are not showing up like they used to. Half back line's pretty good with Gavin White, Evan Looney there. And you could have Charlie back there, although Charlie probably go to midfield. And their full forward line is pretty good. Tony Brosnan, David Shaw, although David has been firing in all cylinders, and Cian McMahon, who's playing very well. So how would you gauge? I mean, they beat Diarmaid O'Connor, got injured in the second half, and he played on, and then he came off. But I'd say if he'd stayed on, I think Crokes would still have won, but it'd been very, very close. It would have been a 1 or 2 point game. So do you think that Crokes have it in them to sort of go further in the competition?
I think they have more. We said it last week, going into Nagale, they were beaten there last year. Tough assignment. Nagale having a few of the hurling guys back.
Yeah, and they played defensively in the first half. They had everybody behind the ball.
Back, needed their performance.
Yeah.
Crokes, few injuries, few lads rested, or maybe maybe to get the injuries right for the next round.
Yeah.
They picked up a few then. I think Mikey Casey got injured.
Yeah.
So they got over the line.
Yeah.
They got the result.
Yeah.
And I think the group will be forgotten about next weekend.
Yeah, be forgotten about. John, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I still think Dr. Crokes are very dangerous in the competition.
Yeah.
Like if you look at it,
they're second favourites to win it behind Dingle.
They haven't hit their top form. But like even in the first game against Dingle, if you take away the way they were destroyed at the back by the 3 Gainies, they still managed 2-14 at the other end on a bad night.
Yeah.
I know they only scored 1-9 the last day, but in the second half against Milltown-Castlemaine the previous week, they beat them 11 points to 1.
Yeah.
So the likes of Micheál Burns returning to the fray. They'll soon have Brian Looney, Kieran O'Leary, Gavin O'Shea maybe. Shane Murphy will be back in goals maybe from this weekend, you'd imagine.
Yeah.
That
he
changes.
told me it would be slow healing last weekend, so I'm not too sure
Yeah.
he'll be back.
That'll-
But Brian O'Shea is doing fine.
Yeah.
The men they really need back. They need Micheál Burns back, obviously, right? Apparently he was doing very well abroad, but I wasn't told it. And then the other one, of course, I think Gavin O'Shea, because I know Gavin is Pat's son, and he still won't give me an interview, but he probably would. But I think Gavin is essential to the team, the link play. He's the guy, he's the playmaker, and they're lacking them because every guy is going around in circles. He's the guy who makes the breaks, gives the ball.
He's kind of an underrated footballer, really, in the county.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of only notice him when he's not there in a weird sort of way. It's like, you really notice it in Crokes when he's not there. He He's a
weird thing for me.
Really serious football brain on that guy.
For me, Crokes' best performance in this championship was actually the game they lost.
Yeah.
We said it against Milltown. They just didn't get going at all in the first half. Grand, they took over and came out comfortable winners.
Yeah.
We said it with G.A.A. They didn't perform. So I've been kind of thinking, I had them up among the favourites, at the start of this competition. And I've been kind of saying, oh, well, we haven't seen the best of Crokes yet.
Yeah.
What if we have?
Yeah.
What if actually
That's
they're
as good as
not
Crokes
necessarily
can
the sum of their parts?
Yeah.
But also,
Have
could
they
we
a
perhaps be
performance?
over egging the league this year?
Yeah.
It's like they absolutely cruised the league, and you're like, oh, wow, Crokes are back. You patch A, they're back.
The hard ones for half.
Yeah, exactly. And then when and you see Dingle were they relegated?
They were relegated.
No team basically from the whole county league.
And it's like, and now
I'm just
when the
wondering-
challenge starts, it's a different story entirely. So
It's kind of, was I more afraid of what Crokes were 5 years ago? Because they're one of the best club teams ever in Kerry. They're there with the Dingle of the 40s, the Mitchells of the 50s and 60s, the Stacks in the 70s. That Crokes team was right up there with any of them.
Yeah. You're probably.
But am I afraid of the memory of that team rather than the reality of this one?
You're telling me.
Or do this one have the ability to fulfill the potential I thought they had?
They probably do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be
At some point,
out of the box this year necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
Pat O'Shea is there. Pat O'Shea is not there because Pat O'Shea is there because he knows there's something in this group.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
And if it's not necessarily they're going to win this year,
I think
that it might be a year or two down the line.
I'm
not ruling them out.
I think Jimmy also is inventing a bit of stuff there,
we
saying that
forget.
he remembers them from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, since he wasn't born until I don't know when.
but I mean, a point I make is that they've probably been the best club side that we've seen.
They have been, yeah. I mean, they've 4 in a row and 3 in a row.
But, like Stacks, remember that kind of over the course of time, they went from, I think, 1914 to 1992 without winning a county championship.
Historian speaks.
Historically, they aren't necessarily, they've always been a good team. They've always been kind of the strongest team around Killarney, East Kerry.
Yeah.
They haven't always been up there.
So,
Is it a case of reverting to the mean?
Look,
I suppose I'm looking too far ahead.
you
I'm
are.
trying to read
You were
too much.
suggesting that by 2091 they'll have only one more one, and me and you will be well gone at that stage.
But I think if you look at some of the lads that were missing last weekend, and like Michal Burns,
Yes.
put those back into the team.
Absolutely.
And I'd agree,
Yeah.
like that Damian's point there about Gavin O'Shea. He's
Yeah.
a playmaker.
Yeah.
He does all the simple things.
Yeah.
He's the link between defence and attack.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most simple play a guy does, you don't really respect it maybe in a way until it is missing. He could be the missing link.
Could be. We'll finish the Crokes here because we discussed them when we discussed in the semi-final up in Rathmore. I'll tell you one thing. I will now make Pat O'Shea's job very easy. I'm going to pick his team, right? I'm going to have Shane Murphy in goals, right? I'm going to have Mark Fitzgerald in the full back line. I'm not too sure who I'm going to have at full back. I'm going to have Michael Potts at cornerback, not midfield. Michael Potts is not a midfielder. He's 5 foot something or other. He's not big enough for a midfielder, and he's better man marker. A half back line, I'll put Mark Cooper, Gavin White, and I'll put Evan Looney. I'll have Charlie Keating at midfield with Mark O'Shea. Half forward line, I'll have Michal Burns at 10. I'll put Gavin O'Shea at 11. Either Tom Doyle or Brian Looney, if he was fit, at 12, with Dahi Casey to come in after about 40 minutes, right? And the inside line will remain the same. They're very good. Tony, David Shaw, and Cian McMahon. That's the team that will win the championship with the Crokes. But do you think Pat O'Shea will listen to me? No, he won't.
And you're definitely not getting an interview now off him.
No, he will. He likes me.
No, it's over now after that.
He's the only guy in Crokes that likes me. Anyway, so that's that section of it. So we have on merit, I think Dingle were the best team in it. They finished on top. and Crokes finished in second place. Now we go to the other grouping, and this was interesting from the point of view that it probably was the one that lasted the longest in terms of Spa and Rathmore.
Possibility. It was alive right to the final seconds.
And Jimmy, you were down. We'll get an exclusive from you because you were so well treated in Kenmare, you told us.
Absolutely, I was.
You were put sitting in a chair and given a laptop, which is a very dangerous thing to do for Jimmy. But you were there to watch Kenmare and Templenoe. Should Kenmare have won it, or should Templenoe have won it? I think Kenmare went a point ahead, didn't they, near the end, and then in just an added time, Killarney levelled it. So was the draw a fair result?
Draw was absolutely a fair result. I
You're sitting on
genuinely
the fence.
thought.
You're sitting on the fence.
I'm not. I think
It makes a difference. I'm sitting on a
I
chair.
think if you check my prediction from last week, I think I said Kenmare
You
would be
did,
very
actually.
slight favourites, but I could absolutely see a draw.
You absolutely did.
That's
You made a small fortune.
for once. I mean, it's the only time in my life
While
I've been right.
sports
I'm
and
hanging on to
Killarney.
this one, you know. It's-
While Sports and Killarney are counting the cost. Go on.
I'll tell you
Put your pension on it.
again, and something we didn't see enough of at Intercounty. This game was an absolute joy to be at. This was one of those, if you've got a busload of American tourists, Joe, and they're saying, you know, we're curious to see this Irish game.
Yeah.
You come to this, you'll be addicted for life.
You mean
Then
the hurling
unfortunately
final?
you'll turn on a game in Croke Park and you'll be put off it again fairly quickly. But this was absolute, every single player giving it everything they had. It was just glorious. I loved it.
Who were the best players there for Kenmare now who've gone through, for example? Who impressed you for Kenmare? Other than, you know, the guys we know. Sean Shea?
Dara Crowley at the back was outstanding.
Yeah.
Thought he was excellent. Sean O'Shea, actually, I think he was top
Say enough
scorer
now.
with something like 5
Yeah.
points, I think.
I have a clean
4 points, I
contract
think.
with his dad.
But he actually, and Paul Gainey's doing the same thing with Dingle. They're actually playing out around the middle. They're more creator than finisher. They're
Yeah.
directing the play the way that their team want it.
The Kenmare bench was good with it.
Again, they got 3 points off their subs bench when they needed them. I would say Templenoe were that little bit in front for most of the game.
Yeah.
Kenmare played slightly more defensive. Templenoe attacked and got more of a reward for that. Their inside line, you Brian Crowley, Aidan Crowley, Killian Spillane, they were all up there. They were all looking for scores. Again, Josh Crowley Holland, that
Yeah,
guy has
yeah.
really impressed me throughout this championship. Again, we're talking about playmaker.
Would you be recommending
vision
him
and so on.
for Kerry? And would you be ringing Jack after the programme?
It's the way he plays. Look, we could be throwing 100 people into the mix for Jack. I mean, the thing about recommending people for Kerry is I always think you should have to say who you're taking out of the current panel. Otherwise, you know, you're not taking 500 fellas to training. Do you know?
John, the Rathmore game, I was at that. Rathmore fielded a weakened team. They had to give lads a rest, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were taken apart by a Spa team who, as Jimmy told us the first day, if he had boots himself, he'd got on the team. You know, that's how poorly he rated his team. But seriously, and then you had...
I was never going to be telling you too much about my own club now, to be fair about it.
David Spillane scored 3-1. Owen Fitzgerald got a goal late on, and so did the right half back Connor Stack. But did you think that probably Rathmore were right to rest the Paul Murphys, the Ryans of this world, etc., and give bench players a chance? John Moyney came on and got a cracking goal, by the way. If he'd been on from the start, who knows? Ahead of knowing that they were through. Was that the way to go, because it's fairly intense from now on?
Yeah, like Jimmy said earlier on, look about the season, the amount of games, the competition in all the groups and in all the championships, and it's really intense. If you can afford to leave some of your better players off, to give them that rest, to get that sharpness back into them, well, it's a great luxury to have.
Yeah.
And Rathmore did that, and you know, they weren't too worried about the result. It was about giving fellas games and having him right and fresh again for the semi-final.
Yeah. And John, Spa, I suppose, okay, if Templenoe had won, and not won by a loss, which then they were going against Kenmare, Spa could have qualified the way things are going and get in the semi-final. But I suppose the likes of Dan O'Donoghue playing well, Spillane, Darmine didn't play the last day, and you have what's his name, Shane Cronin, Evan Cronin, and the cornerback, obviously the captain, Owen Fitzgerald. Obviously the club championship is gone, but as a game in preparation for the county championship, this win would have done them no harm.
Oh, I think that's the biggest thing that William Harmon and the whole of the club will take out of it. Like, they probably went to the game on Sunday not expecting that they'd find themselves in a semi-final afterwards, and even though it nearly happened, I don't think they'll be too disappointed that it didn't happen. But scoring 5-10 gives, it doesn't matter if it's a small depleted Rathmore team, they still had some good players playing, like Shane Ryan and Alan Deneen, and
we have young lads,
Andrew Moynihan playing,
whose kind of memory of this year's club championship, their final memory, they always say to a restaurant chef, make sure the dessert is good so that people leave with a smile on their face.
What about if you don't have
it's the same thing here. We have young lads playing in their first championship, and their last memory is going to be a convincing win over Rathmore, who they know are very strong. Right, Rathmore weren't very strong on the day. The actual thing is, and I don't know how Spa feel about it. I'm certainly not speaking for them or anything, but as far as I'm concerned, you're finishing your championship very respectable, just losing out on scoring difference. If Templenoe had won by a point, right, Spar are heading off to Dingle next weekend, and with the bodies we're down at the moment, I think we'd have been finishing our championship with a bad memory.
I think William Harmon will harness
I
this
think this
victory,
is brilliant.
and even the draw. I'm just having a quick look at the draw there for the county championship on the Monday night. A lot of clubs got good draws. Like, there's a lot of matches where both teams will think we have a decent chance of winning if we put in the effort over the next couple of weeks, because a lot of the big guns were drawn against each other.
Yeah.
So you've Spa against Milltown Castlemaine. Like, that's a match where both William Harmon and Milltown Castlemaine will look at it and say, if we get things right on the day, we can beat them, and vice versa. So no, Spa won't be in a bad state of mind. In fact, they'll have a boost going into training this week, and they'll drive it on.
Very good. Now, the first man I'm going to put in the spot is Damian. Damian, one of the most knowledgeable men in the Kerryman, so I'm told. And he knows a lot about hurling. But we're talking about football now. So the first semi-final is on Saturday evening. You see, I want to get away from Dowdy because he'll be there reporting and commentating on it. And John Kennedy will be there as well. I've decided to give you a trip back to see.
Thanks,
do you realise that Fungi is gone for a couple of years? Because you said to me a couple of years back, if you get me a game in Dingle, I want to see Fungi, I'll bring the kids with me. But actually, the kids are old. Anyway, moving on to Damian. Damian, you have Dingle, who are flying, unbeaten, all the usual suspects. Duzzle, and they're going to be playing Kenmare. So last year that was the final, and if you remember in Tralee, Sean O'Shea had this incident, hadn't he? And he was very upset where they could actually have beaten Dingle, and nearly did, but Dingle actually held on and went on after to the Munster final. Was it Castlehaven that beat them, or what? Yeah. They went on to the Munster final, and the club could be very important this year with the likes of St Brendan's board there, and East Kerry, of course, again, and Shannon Rangers. So if you're looking at the game on Saturday night, how would you weigh up the possibilities? Do you think that Kenmare can throw caution to the wind and have a go, or are Dingle with home advantage warm favourites?
I mean, yeah, you'd have to say over the last 2.5, 3 years, Dingle are the club side of the county. They've been the best club in the country, in the county rather, when they've everyone available to them. And like that, but you go back to that I think it was last September, they had the senior club final, and Kenmare absolutely put it up to them. So there really shouldn't be too much in this. It was Kenmare. There really shouldn't be too much in this at all. I saw Kenmare in the first round of the championship against Rathmore.
What do you think of that?
They were very, very good for a lot of it, but they managed somehow to let. I think they were 6 points up at one point in the first half. They managed to lose it by 4. They were really second at the end of that. But you know what? Maybe that's no harm in a sense, and neither is the fact they got a draw at the weekend against Temple. No, you know they've been tested. You know, in a way, maybe the Dingle who kind of had a garlanded pass to the
that game against Crokes.
Still,
any team coming out of that winning, I mean, a great team lost that one. And a great team won that one. That was one of the best games.
You just taught us 10 minutes ago. We're absolutely the most useless team. Haven't been the greatest. Never gone back. And you went back to World War II to describe again that they weren't as good as the teams back then. And what they have is what they are, and they're not great. But anyway, continue, Damien.
No, I really do this thing. It should be another cracking game. Sometimes you wonder, actually, does home advantage, is it an advantage? Will there be a little bit
well, if the wind blows in
that's true.
Links golf.
But will it just put that little extra bit of pressure on Dingle?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I think, depending on what first 15 that Padraig Cockrell is able to put out on the field on Saturday
Would Tom
night.
Sullivan be, I suppose it's a stupid question, would Tom Sullivan be a huge loss?
Yeah, just like the way Jimmy put it the last day, the way we saw Tom Sullivan going off injured during that game, even though it was very quick, he didn't risk it. You couldn't really see him playing this weekend, just judging from the way he looked.
A layman's call on it.
Now, obviously, he'll get the best of physio treatment during the week, so you never know. But the point I was trying to make is, I think if Dingle have a full team that they're able to put out, they have a better first 15. But I do think Kenmare have a better 20.
Yeah.
I do think, like Kenmare, I think was it 3 points, Jimmy, you said they got off the bench.
Yeah,
they got 5
came off,
They got 5 off the bench the previous week.
Yeah.
Like, they have a lot of young players, the Jack Tagneys and these lads who are coming up through, like Darren Allman and these lads. They mightn't be starting, but they're coming on and they're always scoring. So I do think if it comes down to the last 10 minutes, and if Dingle aren't maybe 4, 5, 6 points to the good, if it comes down to the quality of the benches, Kenmare might nick it.
Yeah. John, what would you think of that game? You'd be a shrewd judge most of the time.
I think that Dingle have been the most consistent team over the last number of years.
Yeah.
When they have a full squad. Tom would be a huge loss, obviously. But I think the inter-county influence, and particularly up front, the gain is...
3 inter-county men up front.
I think they have more scoring potential than Kenmare. Albeit the lads coming on are doing a job for Kenmare, but I would think that Dingle at home, the fact that they've beaten Crokes, that was a big one in the first game. That was a huge championship game, and they've been impressive since. I would fancy Dingle.
Like the best player over the last 3 weeks, since the club championship started, I think it's unquestionably Paul Gainey. All over the whole county in what he's done over the last 3 weeks.
He was the same last year as well. He was the best player.
And I think the style of play they have and the movement of the ball, but again, it's coming back. You have to put it over the bar above, and I think the Gainies are leading. They're leading lights in that attack.
The Gainies
that game in,
just to see talk about Paul Gainey, and there was the interview he did post match. I think it was after the Crokes
he did clever with.
He's just absolutely loving his football. And it feels like, I think Jimmy was kind of representing the inter-county scene, but he's liberated by to playing club football.
Absolutely,
It's like, if you go to all the top scoring stats, and inside forwards are having possibly the worst year they've ever had at inter-county level, and he's just absolutely loving playing club football.
The Cliffords are the same.
Like if you're an inter-county inside forward at the moment, and they probably won't tell you publicly, but they can't be enjoying it.
No.
They just can't.
Paul almost told us by saying how much he enjoyed the club thing.
And even David yesterday, David said a player in the full forward line wants to stay in the full forward line, ideally. But he said that's not the reality of the inter-county game at the moment.
He just misses that. Jimmy, would you have an opinion on this game? You've been sort of angling towards the Crokes in the other side. So on this side now, do you think that Kenmare, you've seen them, and you've seen Dingle last weekend, who did you favour?
I like Kenmare. I rate them very, very highly. I can't see them staying with Dingle on the scoreboard.
Is that because they gave you a chair to sit on last week? No?
That's why I like them. I don't think they're going to come out of Dingle with a win. If the game was down in Kenmare, even then, I think I would still be giving Dingle
But you think they'll be a better game?
Little bit of a nod.
Yeah.
But on their home ground,
Yeah.
I fancy Dingle.
Right, so I think we've got Dingle there, unanimous decision on Dingle. Right, let's move quickly on. The other semi-final is on Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock. All these games are live on Clubber, by the way, and exclusive, unless you were Pirate Station like John Kennedy. Now, so the next, it's over in Rathmore. Rathmore have home advantage against Dr. Crokes. And isn't it, I start with Jimmy now, this is dangerous, and Jimmy, give this as brief as you can. There is, you already told us the history of Dr. Crokes and what a great team they are, but do you not think that the one team that can put it up to Crokes, even going back to the era that you're talking about, which is probably 50 years ago, Rathmore were always a team in the last 20 years that could, in the O'Donoghue Cup and different things, they could always trouble and give a game. They mightn't beat them, but they always put it up to Dr. Crokes. They don't like
some of these
Killarney teams.
Some of the East Kerry Championship games between them. In recent years, a lot of the players on both sides would have played in those games. They were absolute crackers, and Rathmore just had that ability to get over the line. I mean, Crokes dominate East Kerry. They're the best team in East Kerry. Have been for a long time. There's no question about that. At football, they're not better people.
All right, okay.
They couldn't
That's
stay.
important.
They couldn't stay with us morally.
That's right, Father Looney told me that.
But no,
He said he were heretics.
To be quite honest about it, I am looking hugely forward to this one.
Yeah.
Do you know, just as a neutral, again, it's the you get a busload of tourists. Do you want to see some of our sport? Come out to this. Maybe bring riot shields, but come out to this. No, hugely looking forward to it. And I know the kind of on paper we talked about Crokes and so on.
Yeah.
You look at Rathmore. I mean, right, Rathmore's players. A lot of Rathmore's key players have had a break.
Yeah.
And I think fair play to them for that. 100% the right thing to do, and that will count for a lot because already. Yeah. I think that players and teams are starting to feel the strain, and nobody has a full tank of petrol at this stage. You just can't.
I would say Pat O'Shea would be saying to some of his players over the last 2 games, and particularly the first halves of the last 2 games, he'd be saying, "You had a kind of a break yourself, boys. He might have been on the field, but he wasn't doing much." Do you know what I mean?
Oh, they'll come out. God, I'm not saying that Rathmore will be getting anything easy either.
No.
I'm saying I can see very little.
Crokes are favourites to win that, and their second favourites to win. Rathmore are about 3-1. They're not considered by those in the know, the layers, the people who depend on it for their living.
I don't know how much you know about bookmaking, but every time that you look at odds, remember, there's a lot more people giving their money to the bookie than the bookie is giving money to them.
I know, but the thing is, did you ever see a bookie on a bicycle?
You drop your dollars where you want. There you go. That's exactly it.
Yeah, but you see, you're coming from the wrong angle there. Anyway, Jimmy,
I think this could be very tight.
Very tight game, but not a draw. We can't have draws. There has to be decided in the day. You realise that?
I do realise that.
Yeah. Would you still come down on one side or the other? Rathmore home advantage, they'll give you a chair.
No, I'm going to be out there, and I'm probably going to be all alone. So I'm going to be very careful and say absolutely nothing. I hope it doesn't rain, and I hope nobody gets injured, and everybody has a nice time.
I didn't know you were a diplomat, but now you are. I think we'll send you to Gaza. Now, John, what would you ID in this? Obviously, Crokes. They won this club championship, I think 2018 or something, they won the last one. So they haven't been winning regularly recently, but they used to. And obviously, they're still a powerful club. They'll be Hal Burns coming back in. You've Pat O'Shea in charge. He's a master tactician, former Kerry manager. So how do you rate this game up against, a Rathmore side, the new young manager? But they're a tough team. The Rhymes, Paul Murphy, Darcy played the last day. John Moynihan knows where the nets are. The net is, he scores. He's good for a goal nearly every game he plays. What do you think? Andrew Moynihan, young Partick Moynihan, the young miner from 2 years ago, is it John?
A good player.
A good player.
Superb player.
Superb player. What do you think, John?
I think that to the advantage Crokes and the slight, being honest with you, I think the Pat O'Shea factor, Crokes, their aim was to get to a semi-final and a final obviously and win this. Caught in the first round. I won't say caught, they were beaten by a better team, but I think it was by far the best game in the championship.
It was,
by far. The quality, the intensity, the scores that were got. Exceptional performance by Paul Gainey, but Crokes weren't that far off.
No.
While they
there was a penalty decision that could not been given, and there was one given, and if they had gone opposite ways.
They haven't been firing, and also in the other two games they did enough to get over the line.
That's all
we named out guys while ago there that would be coming back. Micheál Budden's back into the team. A few of the injuries Gavin, Brian Looney, these fellas. I think it will be a titanic battle, but I think Crokes will share it.
Very good. So that is now will be recorded. The clip will be taken and played in the dressing room in Rathmore before the game. John Kennedy says that. Now, John O'Dowd, listen to me. Crokes or Rathmore, what would your reading be of it? If you look at sort of Crokes, they have scope for improvement, obviously. But Rathmore, they're at home in Glenbeigh, and they're very hard to beat there. They're a very good. The only team that they really failed to in the league, now they're without obviously Shane Ryan and Paul Murphy, was Crokes beat them. I think that might have been in Killarney.
Do we know Mark Ryan's fitness situation?
He was warming up the last. When I say he was warming up, he was kicking around the last day in his gear with a tracksuit on. So I'm not too sure is he ready to start, but I'd say he's not far away.
I think he will play a part.
I think what Rathmore showed, look, they were All-Ireland Intermediate champions at the start of 2023. They can put it up to anybody, as they showed against East Kerry last year in the county championship. They stayed with East Kerry, Jimmy, maybe 45-50 minutes, which is more than a lot of teams who might be considered better than Rathmore have been capable of doing against East Kerry.
Rathmore, again, it's not just the fact that they have star players.
They have a team collective.
They have no weakness. There's no player there that you can target, if you know what I mean. And again, we said it about Kenmare, they have a bench.
On the other hand, I do think this is a perfect game for Dr. Crokes. Like, if you're Pat O'Shea, I don't think you even have to say anything. These players should be self-motivated here.
Pat O'Shea will say something.
Sunday to head to Rathmore. Some people, like Jimmy, not saying that they're as good as previous Crokes teams of the past, but I do think, I said it at the start of the competition, that I felt that the first game, Dingle and Dr. Crokes, would also be the last game, that they would end up meeting again in the final. So I still think that's the most likely scenario from the weekend.
So, in 2 words, which is very difficult to contain you to 2 words, can you give me your 2 teams? Who's going to contest in 2 weeks' time? I think there's a week in between, isn't there, lads? 2 weeks' time, who's going to contest the Kerry Petroleum Senior Club final? What you going to do?
I don't have a coin. I've got to toss a coin.
I thought you were going to take out 50.
No coins, it's 4. Any notes? Anything notes?
I'm going to say Dingle are going to be playing somebody.
He's bottled it, Mort.
He has bottled it. Yeah, I didn't think you were like that.
100% I'm bottling it.
John,
I can't make that any clearer.
I go along with John O'Dowd. I think the first game that I saw, the quality of it, and if they stayed apart.
That's actually the Micheál Burns factor as well. And I think that Micheál
Crokes and Dingle
adds that link. I think with Micheál there will be more ball going into that full forward line. So I think most likely Crokes.
Are you nearly ready? Damian, who do you think?
I'll go with Dingle, and I'll go with Crokes, but possibly maybe after extra time. I think Rathmore.
That might be a good call. You wouldn't you normally are not close to the mark, but you would be far off there.
But that Rathmore team, they like everyone said, they just have serious grit and. They don't know when they're beaten.
Never say that.
I was in stadium the first day, and you kind of think, Kenmare moved motoring nicely here, and they just bit by bit just turned the screw, and got back on top. So very, very, very impressive side. So there won't be much in that. Extra time could easily happen. Yeah.
Right. So that's the prediction by the majority of those of us who both have a conscience and have a heart and have a bit of courage and will actually call something. We believe that it's going to be Dr. Crokes against Dingle in the final. Now that's the boys. For me personally, I think it'll either be Crokes and Rathmore that will play Dingle in the final. So that's the senior championship dealt with, and we'll be back shortly now with a quick run through the Kerry Petroleum Intermediate Championship. So back again now for a quick run through the quarterfinals of the Kerry Petroleum Intermediate Club Championship. And we will start now with Damian. We'll take one each here, and the big one, I suppose, here in Strand Road where we are right now, Kerins O'Reilly's taking on Fossa. Now Kerins O'Reilly's has had great wins. They're one of the favourites now to win it behind Austin Stacks, where Fossa are gone right out in the betting, despite the fact that they have 2 wins and just failed by a point to Beaufort. Your thoughts on that game, Damien?
Yeah, we were discussing it earlier, the 10-1 Fossa with the bookies. It seems a bit
an insult, really.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't. Well, maybe, whatever. If they want to see it as an insult, it might drive them on. But I mean, when you've got those 2 boys, any day they can win any game.
The Cliffords,
The Cliffords, yeah. Any game, they can win at this level. They're coming here. Which
Tommy Walsh, David Moore,
exactly.
Jack Savage, Oliver Coffey.
And Cormac's playing great stuff at the moment.
Cormac, sorry, not Oliver.
And Barry John Keane's playing great stuff at the moment as well.
Thomas Kennedy, there's a lot of stars.
It's for a team that's just come down, they've reacted really well, bounced back. Although it is very hard to bounce back.
And win straight away. Stacks found out. It's a ridiculous. The boys will be going through the other games as well. It's a ridiculously stacked championship. Every one of the teams in those quarterfinals, they could nearly play senior level.
They could play senior level, or you could definitely nearly win it. Strand Road on their home patch, you'd be fancying them. But never say never with the Cliffords. And look, and we don't want to harp on too much about the Cliffords because it's a lot of very good footballers.
The O'Shea's key in
Matt
the
mix. Matt Rennie.
Shane O'Sullivan's good keeper.
It's a good Fossa team. Maybe not like Strand Road good, but it's a very good team with 2 of the best footballers in the country. Never say never. Never say never.
So who are you going for?
I'll go for Strand Road.
Tentatively, yeah, it's a good summary, Damien. Now, Beaufort, which we saw last, and we were very impressed by them, and Desmond's are good as well, and they're playing Glenbeigh, Glencar. So it's a mid-Kerry derby, which that adds a bit of, fuel to the fire there. So Beaufort playing somebody else, but when you're playing Glenbeigh, Glencar, Glenbeigh were well beaten by Stacks, but I won't say freakish, but Team Purcell got those 3 goals the first half the game was over.
They had their job done already.
They had their job done, so why would they bother? Yeah. So how do you read that?
This is a fascinating game, actually. You mightn't get the headlines of some of the other games, especially the one that Damien just discussed. But like a mid-Kerry derby, both teams have had really good seasons already. They're both promoted from Division 2 up to Division 1 for next season. Peter O'Sullivan's doing a fantastic job, as he has done with mid-Kerry over the last couple of seasons. Doing a great job with Glenbeigh. They have experience. With
Glenbeigh are my club, by the way.
Among others, but they have Darren O'Sullivan. They have the experience figures of the Darren O'Sullivans and the Pa Kilkennys and the Colin McGillicuddies and stuff. But they also have really good young players coming through the system, like Jack Brosnan and Liam Smith and more. Looking at Beaufort last week, I think maybe potentially Beaufort are a little further on in their development than Glenbeigh, because they've been close enough to making this breakthrough in this competition over the last number of seasons. They have a young player that's lit up this intermediate championship so far, in young Darragh O'Connor.
Yeah, so lit up that you didn't even name him man the match last weekend, but go ahead.
Scored a fantastic goal. Sean O'Brien and Mike Breen providing a lot of excellent leadership.
Sean Coffey in goal.
Yeah, they're very good forwards. Kieran Kennedy now was a player who impressed me really the last day. He seems to be...
breaks the game line.
Yeah, seems to be in great shape at the moment. I think he's one of the vice captains as well, so he's got it. Liam Carey played very well. I give, tentatively as well, I still think Beaufort can win it.
Yeah, I think they're one of the teams that could possibly win it out. John Kennedy will give you the easy one. Austin Stacks in their own home pitch above in Conley Park, and they're playing Killarney Legion. Now Killarney Legion struggled. They could have won the first game against Glenflesk, They beat Niebegilla well eventually, but then they went to Carside against St Mary's, and obviously there was a big win there. 3-2 to half-time. At half-time wasn't very spectacular, but they went on to win it, obviously. But how do you view that one?
I suppose, look, before there was a ball kick, Mort Stacks were one of the favourites to win the Intermediate Championship.
Yeah.
The squad of players they have, the quality they have.
Have they too much quality?
Well,
what I mean by that is, do they know what's their best team?
Yeah, it's a good question. But like, you know, the likes of Dylan Casey, Joe Connor, Armin Heinrich, Jack O'Shea, Ronan Shanahan, these are quality players. And when you put in the young fellas, then the likes of Paddy Lane, Keane Purcell, young Daniel Kirby, serious talent. You know, I think, you know, they had a tough battle with the Gaeltacht. They're in there on merit. I think they got maybe the kick in the backside they wanted. Their home advantage. I'd fancy them against Legion, but look,
They're relying on these players though. They want James, he might be there,
Keane Gamble, you know, David Sullivan, these guys they're good players, but I think that Austin Stacks, from the time they went down to intermediate, the aim was to get back up as soon as they could, and they're viewing this as their championship. And I think they'll win.
You give the Stacks. So the favourites, you're picking the hot shot favourites to win the game. Well done, John. You love taking chances. Now, Jimmy, this has to be brief. And by I mean brief, I mean less than 2 minutes, not 2 hours like your dissertation of what the Crokes were about. Your game, of course, you'll be with me on co-commentary, and I'll be commentating as always, as you know. I speak a bit more than you.
As you know, Laune Rangers are one of the oldest clubs in the
they are. No, Glenflesk versus Laune Rangers. Please don't go back to J.P. O'Sullivan and the first All Ireland and Foley and go way back in time and the Hassids and stop it. No. Well, there's a couple of Hassids playing. Aidan Clifford would be delighted with you.
I'll tell you, I had Laune Rangers up among the favourites for this championship at the start. Rahilly's really impressed me in that opening game where they beat Laune Rangers and have kept impressing me ever since. Yeah. I still say Laune Rangers haven't quite peaked. They're thereabouts. Glenflesk, they're a young team for the most part.
Keane Lynch back is
Callum for Cronin me a very big one. Yeah. Callum Cronin, you know, I watched him with the Sem and so on over the past years.
Did you go to the Sem?
He's always good for a goal.
Did you go to the Sem?
I did.
Did you play football with them?
I scored a point for them myself in a challenge match, and it was wrongly disallowed.
Right, so that's why you gave up. But continue on, yeah.
No, Glenflesk had a great battle off Guinea-Gulla.
The Roaches, like,
do you know.
Was he hobbling at the end of the game? Dara. I think he was Dara. I think he was hobbling. I watched it back. I think he was hobbling.
I watched the game.
He could have lost his shoe or something. Like a horse.
Nothing struck me like that at the end of it. I watched it on Clubber. I wasn't actually present, you said.
All right.
Glenflesk Laune Rangers, very, very tight. Home venue will help. Laune Rangers have had the knack of getting in for those goals as well. A very, very tight one to call. For me, Glenflesk, I want to see the likes of Tommy Bowler and Patrick Darcy scoring more. Laune Rangers, for me, have a
strike that, because if you go back to Seamus Moynihan's career, JC won't get home to Killarney till 9 o'clock. Come on.
Jamie is actually playing very well.
He is. You know? Is he playing left back or midfield?
Midfield,
yeah.
But
remember, Evan Horn is watching us as well.
Laune Rangers will need 2 goals if they're to win this one, but I can see Laune Rangers getting 2 goals. I think Laune Rangers might just shade this.
You knew that from the very start. You told me the first sentence Laune Rangers, and you build it up to tell me that Laune Rangers is going to win it. For the record, just that I would be held to account as well. I think Stacks will win. I think that Laune Rangers will win, one of my clubs. I think that Glencar, one of my other clubs, will be beaten by Beaufort. And I find it very hard to call Kerins and Fossa. I think if the Cliffers cut loose, they could win it. But I would say, if I'm going with my head, probably rallies with home advantage might just scrape it, providing Tommy Walsh and all these guys are fit. They had a few lads that went off the
Have Kerins or Rathleys the backs to mark the two Cliffords?
That's the question. Obviously, yeah, well, McElligott plays back there. They have a few, but then if you're looking at Ben
Rathleys the team to stop enough ball getting into the Cliffords would be a better question for me.
Will do well at midfield.
And I think they might.
They might have, yeah. That's the question.
The interesting thing about all these championships, particularly the junior and the intermediate and the Premier Juniors, is the teams who've been knocking around semi-final, quarter-final for a few years. Yeah. The fact that Fossa were in the final last year, that will absolutely help them. The fact that you know Strand Road are new at this level. I know they've been in the senior final 2 years ago, but there is a little bit of an adjustment period. So yeah.
Without any discussion, because we have to cut now. Without any discussion, we'll be doing the Junior Premier next week. Promise you that. We had the Mahal Quirk thing today, which delayed it slightly, put us off a kilter a small bit. Ballymac are the favourites, Kiel second favourites, then we've Fireys at Fair Sinnans on his call. Who at this stage could win? You've been following a lot of junior and Premier Junior games because that's your calling in life. Damien, who do you think? Give me a team.
I like Kiel.
You like Kiel. John?
Yeah, Ballymac are favourites, especially because they got to the final last year. But I like to look at Kiel, and St. Sinnans are something like 13 games unbeaten, 11 in the county league, 13 wins in a row.
Yeah.
John, you were Sinnans man, aren't you? Well, you're not, but
Ballymac would be favourites, of course, but Sinnans Artford, you wouldn't rule those out.
Yeah, there's no team from East Kerry in this, so you've no opinion, but give us an opinion anyway.
Ardford, considering the players they have lost, have looked surprisingly good to me.
Do you know?
Keith got man of the match, but I think there was 5 Evans on the starting team, and they were all good. Paul Costello full forward, but again, Ballymac are a Division 1 team, and you're never going to be looking past.
Yeah. Well, if I was looking for a favourite, then I'd go for Ballymac, but the world and the county will be absolutely glued to this when I will say that I actually agree with you at Fert are an outside bet. Let that be a warning to you all that myself and Jimmy.
I want that straight away. I want that on YouTube. I want that on Twitter. I want that on Instagram. I want that going around the world.
Now, before this thing gets very disorganized,
I want posters done up.
Absolutely, you will. You'll be retired next week. Now, that is our podcast for this week, and we just remind you that all the games that we'll be discussing, we have the 4 quarter-finals of the Kerry Petroleum Intermediate Championship, 2 of the Senior Club Championship semi-finals, and of course we have a couple of games as well. The game out in St. Sinnans at Ballymac. We have the game in St. Pat's Brenneville, out in Brenneville. They're playing Castle Gregory, and we have what we call the Mountainy Derby. That's what you know is called, who cross the hill and try and beat up Kiel. Both of them are qualified, it doesn't matter, and we're sending our war correspondents there, Gerald Connor and Shawnee Barton. So they're all exclusive and live on Clubber this weekend. We'd ask you to get your annual pass, or you can subscribe to watch any of the games and you won't be disappointed. A lot of the inter-county players who we've been talking to have been delighted with the action that they've seen on Clubber, and they've been able to look back and watch games when they're not playing in them themselves. So I'd like to thank my panel today, Jimmy Darcy, for your incisive comment and your history lesson on Dr. Crokes. To John Kennedy, as always, thank you, John. One of these days I'll buy an oven off you or whatever it is, a stove. We have John. One of these days I'll actually read an article you write. And Damian Stack, one of these days I'll believe something that you have actually written, mildly. But yeah, thanks lads, it was great fun, plus a great rundown on both club championships. Thanks to John C. O'Shea for his wonderful work. That's it for now. We'll be back again at the weekend with our games, and next week we'll bring you another football review and preview.